This is a Lip Media podcast.
Hello, Lamely. Welcome to Chapter 2 of Me, I Am a Memoir, the meaning of Mariah Carey, with yours truly, Fab, Adam Richard, and his truly, Posh, Phillip Lee Curtis. Hello, darling.
Hello, darling. How are you?
How exciting. We're reading the book still.
I know, we're in it.
We're in the book.
We've done 14 episodes and we're just on our second actual book chapter.
Second actual chapter. So we're reading two sections of the book today. It is going to be amazing. But before that, we have to find out all that is news and excitement in the world of MC. And as we head towards Merry Christmas, MC.
MC squared.
MC squared. So here is Moo Moments.
Me Moments. All right, Lamley. This week we're throwing it a little differently in Me Moments. We've got our headlines and we've got our lead stories. Are you ready for the headlines?
You've got full Carrie Bickmore.
I know. I am Carrie now. That is that. So Lamley members in the US have congregated at a service station, dancing to All I Want for Christmas Is You after the news that Joey B and Kamala Harris Bowles won the political thingy. Mariah seemed very pleased with this celebration, though she was said to be disappointed when she couldn't find that particular service station on Spotify. Mariah was sad to hear about the loss of Jeopardy host Alex Trebek, but still had the strength to plug her appearance on the show throughout the week.
Oh,
and
excellent.
Beyonce sent Mariah some free clothes, which Roro Diva modelled for us. Because if anyone needs free clothes, it's Mariah and her kids. And in our lead stories, Underneath the Stars had a video release.
Don't even. I watched it on the toilet. It was very exciting. I never thought that day would come where I would just be, you sit on the bog with your phone and I just got an alert. I'm like, oh, what? She's found it finally. So I had to watch it then and there.
It helped you get everything out.
I wasn't even doing anything important in there. Just, I sit down to do both numbers because I'm polite.
Oh my God, every song on the set list. Now, of course, the video, it was mainly made up of sort of behind the scenes and some tour clips with little bits of Mariah swinging around a pole interspersed.
Yes.
Throughout. Now, did you feel like it was worth the wait?
Look, every bit of Mariah is worth the wait.
Oh, well, obviously.
I can understand why it was not released at the time.
Yeah.
It was, it was one of those songs that almost got released. I think it was like, that album had been so huge already. It was like, what are we taking blood from a stone here? Is there anything left on the album we haven't released?
And it's funny, I know it's such a Lamley favourite and critical favourite, but for me it was always the song I had to sit through between Fantasy and One Sweet Day. I just wanted to get to the hits. I was 5. It was too grown up for me. I couldn't understand. I don't care about love.
Love and Love's First Flower opening. I think the other thing with it is, One Sweet Day was such a behemoth of a song. Yeah. It's one of the, it's in the, record books as having one of the longest runs at number one. So yeah, it kind of makes you go, well, I can see that having a kind of sweet ballad after that is, you're just like, yeah, no, that's not right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that 16-week run, that was when you had to go out to the shop and actually buy the CD single. That's hard to get. Not everybody has that.
I haven't.
And the other thing that we had was an Audible Live interview. It said feat Nessa. It wasn't even with Nessa. It was featuring Nessa, or as I'm calling her, Nessa Amorosi.
Nessa Amorosi. And Van Am, her fans call her.
And I haven't actually quite finished it because I was watching it before this. Did you get to see it?
No, I did not.
It's good. Like it probably you even could wait till after because I think there's things that went over my head that we've not gotten to yet.
Well, that's one of the reasons I'd been avoiding anything too in depth because I want the book to tell me.
I did skip through the audio book clips that they had. I just kind of skipped through. But what I liked about the interview, like firstly, Mariah said she didn't want to edit the audio book in the same way she would a song. She wanted, if she's emotional, she's emotional. Like it's all there. The sighs and everything else.
Oh, there are so many sighs.
And she did say, Nessa Amorosi asked whether her engineer was crying along with her. And Mariah's like, oh, no, he couldn't see me. But in my head, I'm like, yeah, he didn't. And then she fired him.
No, she's had very few engineers in her career. And I get the impression that they are very, like, they either know her voice so well, they know when to go, nah, that was no good. Yeah. Or they are just cowering in fear all the time.
Yeah, and that's how she likes it.
Yeah.
But the thing I think I noticed with this particular interview is Mariah's really quite relaxed. I think, what do we call her? Van Am. Nessa was quite, she didn't Oprah-splain. She was just asking questions and letting Mariah answer them, which I know that's a novel idea for an interview, but
it's
it
very
works.
strange. Why would you do that?
And the other thing, Mariah gave us an answer about the reason she's not singing every lyric is because she wanted herself to experience actually saying the words. Because she said when she's singing them, the enunciation's not always there. There's inflections, there's this and that. But she said, I actually wanted the words to hit a little more.
Well, she keeps reminding us she's a songwriter.
Yes. I had no idea until she told me 19 million times.
It is weird though as a writer, like when I do stand up and you're performing what you've written, it's such a different way to actually writing things down. So it is I imagine songwriting's the same thing. It's like once the tune and the melody are there and you're concentrating on your vocal performance, you forget about what you've actually, what you spent ages creating. Yeah. Like you're just into the performance of it at that point. Which is...
Then that's fun because when you go back and listen to the demo or whatever, you hear a lyric and you go, "Oh my god, that's genius! Who wrote that?" Oh, it was me.
It was me. I did that. I came up with... I used to have that. Like I changed something in a script once, and someone said, "Oh, why did you get rid of that joke?" And I was like, "Oh, it seemed a bit revolting." They go, "It's just hilarious." I'm like, well, yeah, I didn't really like it. They went, you put it in there in the first place. I went, I know.
I write all of the jokes.
I sometimes go, oh, that was really funny, that thing. And they go, you wrote that. I'm like, did I? I thought that was one of yours. Yeah. I'm like, no.
I forget when I've said things as well. People come up to me, maybe I've met someone at a party or something, and then the same person's birthday the next year, I see them again and they come up and they'll say, banana. And I'm like, what? And they're like, remember that really hilarious joke you said about bananas? And I was like, I have no friggin' idea who you are. I don't know what you're talking about. And then they'll tell me it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's funny. Who said that? And it was me.
I was distracted trying to get Holly Marie Coombs to reply to me on the internet.
I did actually ask Shannon Doherty if she was going to write a book. And she did reply. She said she is. Yeah. Because she wrote one a few years ago called Badass. But it was just like a coffee table book about being a badass that someone else probably wrote. But
she's been through the ringer lately, and I feel like she's going to need to write some of this out.
Yeah. And so that's why I asked. I was like, I'm curious. Are you going to tell your story? And what did she say? Why, yes. Yes, I am. And I was like, that's right. Me and Shando, BFFs.
Also, Kylie replied to you this week. You just been on it.
She did.
This is now. Start calling you the Mad Atter because you at everyone.
I do. I don't really chase it like I used to. Like that was my point of going on Twitter, was just to get people to reply to me.
I know.
I don't do it so much anymore, but I just tag Kylie and everything in the hopes that she'll see it, and she did.
And it was your mum. She didn't care about you. It was
no,
your
I
mum
know. That's everyone. I've literally done shows where, you'll have the front of house people who maybe, it's a different person every night. So you've not always met them. So I'll go out and say hi. And one was like, oh my God, your mum, I love her. I want to adopt her. I'm like, I haven't even met you. And she's already been out and becoming best friends with you.
Your
Lordy.
mum sounds like a force of nature.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's BFF. And I think that brings us to how about a recap? How about a recap? A recap. Would you like a recap?
So recapping last week, we found out Mariah's been doing inner child therapy. We also found out that her inner child is quite damaged by witnessing a lot of family violence and also not feeling like she fits in. Like her skin tone is different than other members of her family. It's her hair is a different color. It's all kind of confusing for her at this stage. But also, she was told by
Mariah E.
that her voice is full of instruments and that she can affect us. And so that is where we're up to.
Yes. We love Mariah E.
Mariah E. is the best. Her one white friend.
Give us the gist. Give the gist.
So the gist, this week we're doing 2 chapters. Are they chapters? They're sections? What are they?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're doing things.
It's hard to say. Anyway, the first one is called There Can Be Miracles, which features some of the worst babysitting of all time. And once again, trigger warning, family violence.
Oh, yeah.
And then When Christmas Comes, which caused me to have some actual emotions, and a little tear ran down my face while in the produce aisle at the supermarket where I was buying chocolate. My supermarket puts chocolate right next to the oranges, and I'm like, well, I'm not buying an orange now.
You could do a bit of Terry's chocolate orange. Little Dawn French.
But yes, so we be prepared. I may not be able to keep my emotions in during the reading of When Christmas Comes.
Oh, I'm so curious. Because, of course, you listened to the audiobook. So
I did.
Reading the book, there was not a lot of emotion happening. But it sounds like from the audiobook, there's some stuff. Shall we break it all on down? Break me on down. All right. Starting with There Can Be Miracles. ... when you believe. So the intro to this chapter made me laugh because Mariah was talking about the house that her mother, her brother and herself moved into with the tiny rooms. But it sounded from the description like there was infinity tiny rooms. Like there was tiny rooms downstairs, so there was even more tiny rooms upstairs. Like there was 1,000 rooms. That was just really small.
So it's like those tiny house shows that
yes, they're all stapled together,
like lots of them all stacked up.
Oh, it was awful. We had a tiny 7th bathroom. I had 9 tiny bedrooms.
Yes, so many rooms. We do get a really special Mariah Carey vocal performance on this reading, which I have to read it out.
Okay.
My mother was often working out at night, so Morgan was left to babysit me. Morgan, like not even the pause, just the Morgan. Like I've not heard someone's name loaded with so much venom before. Like
yeah.
I mean, as this chapter goes on, we realize that this is some kind of that's vocal foreshadowing. She's like letting us know this is going to get fairly intense. Because she was kind of funny with it. She's like, no, Morgan was left to look after me. He had no skills to look after a little girl.
Oh, yeah. And did you, because you didn't get the sighs last week, so did you go back and listen to those?
I listened to the sighs, and the sighs are palpable.
Aren't they heaven?
But wait till you hear Morgan.
Now, of course, yes, she talks about being left in the house alone by her brother and watching a 2020 episode about children being kidnapped, which
I know.
got me thinking, when you were sort of 5 to 10 years old, were there things that you watched that were perhaps a little inappropriate?
Yes. Anything about nuclear war. So I grew up in the 80s during the height of the Cold War, and nuclear devastation was about to happen any day now.
Yeah,
like we were
of course.
told. It was going to happen any day now. There was the Raymond Briggs illustrated book When the Wind Blows, which is horrific for a picture book. Like these just poor people that get radiation poisoning and just die before your eyes, page after page after page. Devastating. And then there was like The Day After Tomorrow, which was an American made-for-TV movie where the bomb goes off, and it's just like like you're watching Dallas or Dynasty or Days of Our Lives. Like, it's a really boring soap opera movie. And then it ends with cannibalism and, and kind of like post-apocalyptic horror. Threads was another thing I watched when I was a kid that I probably shouldn't have, which is the British version of The Day After Tomorrow. And
Of course.
so you know how everything American is vaguely optimistic and everything British is pretty pessimistic. Threads is possibly the most horrific thing you've ever seen in your life. Like, it is like, it's already depressing at the start because no one's got any money and there's tensions throughout the world somewhere, and then the bombs go off and then the horror happens. Like, this was already pretty bad.
Yeah.
So
it's
yeah,
like that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, the one where he gets eaten by a bear and then he's riding a horse and he falls off a cliff, then he has to live in the horse.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
I
my
saw
God.
that in the cinema.
Me too.
I know.
I
There's some
stopped
video
eating.
I could have paused and gone for a walk.
I stopped eating my Maltesers,
Yeah.
which never happens
No.
because I was so horrified. Now, so for me as a little kid, I basically went from watching Play School to my favorite movie being War of the Roses. And there was a bit of violence going on
violence.
in there. If anyone who doesn't know, it's Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas getting a divorce trying to murder each other.
Yeah,
and it's delightful.
It's a black comedy. It's meant
Yes,
to be
it's-
kind of
it's-
gallows
yeah.
humor, but it's, Americans are not always great at that.
No.
They sometimes
So-
layer it on a bit thick.
I rewatched it recently. I'm like, oh my God, he like pees in dinner and
Yeah,
like,
it's not okay.
Ooh. And then, of course, probably by the time I was 8, I was watching the entire Scream series. I
was
didn't watch
watching Doctor Who as a kid. Like, that
See,
was terrifying.
I
but
was watching
fine.
Xena. That was
Yeah, Xena,
around.
nice.
But there was enough campiness around that you didn't always notice the slightly darker moments.
And same with Doctor Who. Like, the set's
yes.
wobbled.
But the
The
funny
horrible
thing was,
things are made out of, bubble wrap spray painted green in Doctor Who.
bit of
So it was always a little bit
polystyrene.
of,
behind the magic.
yeah.
But it was funny because then when I turned about 12, that's when I watched Winnie the Pooh. So it was a bit of a backward thing. But I look back now, I'm like, I'm fine. And one of I wrote down a couple of quotes from Mariah that I just thought sort of stood out. One was that I wanted my brother to love me.
Yeah.
That kind of says it all about that relationship and maybe the Morgan. But then she said he'd outgrown anger by middle school. And so I'm thinking, oh, that's nice. They must have patched things up.
No.
And graduated to full-on rage. And I was like, shit, that sentence had a twist in the middle of it that I wasn't expecting.
No, when in the audiobook, she just rolls on into that.
Yes.
I do love before she gets to the big moment in this chapter, which is when he assaults his own mother, quite violently and quite viciously because she wouldn't let him borrow the car. I love that Mariah tries to rationalize his feelings. Tries to say, is it race that's a problem because the white kids were awful to him and the black kids were awful to him because he didn't fit in? Was it their father and his anger management issues? Was it she's trying to go, there's, like she's talking about her own inner child, she talks about his inner child.
Yeah,
the broken
she's trying to
boy.
find the meaning of Morgan Carey.
Yeah, she is. She doesn't
she
look very
does.
deeply. I've seen him in there. He's no good. Okay, bye.
Now, she does mention Morgan having a disability, which she doesn't really go into. I did have a little Google, and it's sort of not a well-known, but a known fact of him having cerebral palsy.
Right.
I don't want to go too far into that because I don't have all the information.
No.
But I was just curious about what is, because she doesn't say what it is. And you're like, what does she mean? Does he have a broken leg? Like, what are we talking about? But again, that's sort of part of her trying to understand and rationalize.
Yeah.
But the quote around what you were mentioning was, children can be mean, but when ordinary meanness is combined with racism, it takes on a peculiar brutality, one very often sanctioned by and learned from adults.
Yes.
And I don't even think we need to comment on that. I just wanted to mention it because it's true. Like,
oh yeah, my father tried to teach me all sorts of horrible things about my gay uncle. We were the only Caucasian family in our street, only Anglo-Saxon family in our street, and we had Vietnamese, Lebanese, Turkish, Greek, Italian. Like, it was a huge melting pot, Brunswick, when I grew up there. And a lot of people, were still coming into the country, refugees from different war zones. And, my dad tried so hard to make us believe that there was something better about us, that everyone else was beneath us. And it was like, yeah, no, I don't believe you. They're my friends.
yeah.
Like, you're trying to make me think that my friends are somehow less than me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was also because I, from a very young age, already knew that I was gay.
You're gay?
So the things he was saying about my mum's brother were like, that was my benchmark for, his opinions are not correct.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, then that invalidates me. So therefore, my strength of will is such that I'm like, well, no, he's wrong then.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's quite a common occurrence, let's say.
But yeah, I'm presuming Morgan's cerebral palsy is probably like RJ Mitty from Breaking Bad, who is like, his character in the show is more affected by it than he is in real life.
Sure.
Like, didn't he date Britney Spears for like 7 minutes?
Who was his name?
RJ Mitty.
I have no idea. Sure.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I don't know the name, but we can say you did.
Okay, cool. He's the son from Breaking Bad.
I watched Breaking Bad in 10 minutes on YouTube because I couldn't be bothered watching the whole series.
You don't have to watch it.
It was 6 series. I can't deal. Now, of course, as you mentioned, we do have a bit more family violence in this chapter,
Yes.
with the particularly sort of violent altercation between Morgan and Patricia. And the thing that stood out to me again in this chapter was Mariah's sort of fantastical description of what happened.
Yeah.
It was like a movie.
This one, like the last chapter, was more kind of impressionistic, I guess, because she was younger. But this one, it seems there's more detail. Like, it's like the horror of the violence feels more specific,
immediate as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the actual things that are happening, as opposed to the last one, which was sticking out of shirt sleeves and things getting broken.
True,
There was no real sense of this was happening there. Whereas here, it's like, her feet were lifted off the floor. She was banged into the wall. Like, we really see it kind of like, it's quite confronting and it's very full on.
Yeah. And of course, Mariah going on to call the family friend. And it made me wonder, how long was she there? As in, how long was Mariah there by herself with her mum, not knowing if she was okay?
Yeah.
Like, that's to me what would have been even more traumatic than what she saw, if that makes sense.
Oh, the fallout is always worse than the actual event, because it's like a split second. Like, that's one of my favorite moments, is where she said it was a split second and it was an eternity. Like, it was, Because that's how you react to things. And even as an adult, when something terrible happens, it feels like it happens all of a sudden and it's going forever.
Yeah.
It's quantum physics.
And it takes a minute for you to remember some of it. I think in the moment, it all seems like a big wash of stuff, and then it starts to come back. But one of the things that one of the cops said was, if this kid makes it, it'll be a miracle. Mm-hmm. And that night, I became less of a kid and more of a miracle. Now, obviously, this chapter is quite serious.
Yes.
And the occurrence of all of this is not lost on me. But I do love that what Mariah has taken from it is that she's a miracle. She's like, the lesson I learned here today is that I am a miracle. That's it. The end. Yeah. That's the meaning of Mariah Carey, chapter closed.
I think there is that thing though, like my sister and I talk about this a lot when we're having conversations. Like, we don't have the same relationship as Mariah and her siblings, obviously. Like, we're quite close. But we talk a lot. We're just like, how are we not a mess? Like, you know, how is Mariah and, you know, Morgan and her sister are who they are? Like, it's, you know, and I guess as she's gotten successful, it's caused more resentment for them because they're like, well, why couldn't I do that? And I feel like my sister and I kind of are constantly, I mean, maybe it's because we've been each other's support, but we often will look at each other and just go, how did we not end up in that, you know, that place where...
I do think a big part of it is having something. So for Mariah, it was music. For you, it was writing. For me, it was music. Like, you've got to find something to get lost in that's positive. Other people find things to get lost in that, unfortunately, can be quite self-destructive. Yeah. And, you know, we can toe the line of it. We can go between. But if you love something more than all of that shit, it will generally help you through.
Yeah. If you're really into trains.
If you're really into trains, you're going to just be all over it.
If you're making YouTube videos of the announcements.
But
train not taking passengers.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is good.
23 views. Oh my God, my biggest video.
I've been watching those videos all week.
Oh, stop it. But I think it's a mixture of having something else to enjoy. I think it's a little bit of, like you said, having you know, someone else to share those thoughts or feelings with, if you're lucky. Some of it is luck. Yeah. Some of it is choices. Some people have to choose whether to be positive or negative in a particular situation, whether to be proactive or let it take them over. And you know, the same person can make both decisions at different times in their life. Yeah. But some people more often than not kind of let it overwhelm a little more than I think others.
You know, like the cop saying, if this kid makes it, it'll be a miracle. Like that crystallizing her drive forward, I guess, in a way. Like, I had something similar when I was a kid. My mum told me, I don't know, I might have been 12, 13. Anyway, I was being badly behaved at the time. And she sat me down and, you know, was explaining about her sister who had a heart problem at 36, was diagnosed with this heart problem. And, you know, would have lived for about another 10, 15 years, they reckoned, into her 50s. And they were like, or you can have this operation to extend your life, maybe, you know, a bit further. And, you know, the prognosis was once she got into her 40s, she was going to be quite weak and not able to do much. So she decided to have this operation, and Mum walked in on her with me. I was 1 year old at the time. And so her sister was explaining to me, the 1 year old, that the reason she was having the operation was because she wanted to see me be older than 10 years old. She wanted to see me grow up and become a man and do everything I was going to do. And she died in the operation. Oh. And so that, when Mum told me that as a kid, that was one of those things that, you know, whenever you're kind of on the precipice of making bad choices, and there are many that you sometimes make, but I think it's the second time you decide to do something stupid, or the third time you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that because someone risked their life and ultimately paid the price. So because of me, Like,
Sure.
that was a big deal. And I can't squander that investment in my well-being. So yeah, like, so it's every now and again, like when I have those moments of like, you know, we all have self-destructive moments. There's those ones where I just go, oh no, actually there's someone gave their life. So to see me grow up. So I maybe should be a little bit more responsible about things.
Oh, that's a lot to take on.
I know. I can't believe that came out. Mariah, what have you done?
Done.
But I feel like that's what happens to her in this moment. I feel like the cop
Yeah.
saying, if she makes it, it'll be a miracle. And her saying, I became more of a miracle. It's almost like a childlike determination to not be Morgan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's like she's seeing him in counterpoint of like, oh, that will be me if I don't, you know, take myself in hand.
And I do think that's a bit of a youngest child trait as well, in watching your siblings make mistakes.
Yeah.
That you go, hang on, I saw, because you're on the outside of it. So you see the beginning of the mistake and the end of the mistake and go, oh, let's not do that.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think, you know, the first or second borns don't have that, what do you call it? Example.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I was the firstborn, so I had no example. So
yeah, so you kind of make your mistakes really blindly.
Yeah.
Whereas when you you know, you are that little bit younger, you sort of get you learn the lesson secondhand.
Yeah.
Sometimes, which is great, because as they say, there's not enough time to make every mistake.
No.
So if you can learn lessons from other people's mistakes, do it.
Yeah.
Now, on to something a little more light-hearted.
It's time to get
When
festive.
Christmas comes.
When Christmas comes. Oh.
Now, did Mariah sing All I Want for Christmas Is You?
She did not. She just said the words. But she did sing in this section.
Oh, she did? Okay.
She did. Down the end where she's reflecting on everything and talking about Schroeder from Peanuts playing it on the piano. And she's like, she says, it was from my little girl spirit and those early fantasies of family and friendship that I wrote All I Want for Christmas of You. Think how it begins, the delicate chimes, and she sings the chimes. Ding, 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 ding. And fully into singing voice, like not even just, oh, I'm just going to sing in my talking voice. Like suddenly, you know, gear change right into full Mariah, ding, 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 ding. But yeah, she says the delicate chimes are reminiscent of those little wooden toy pianos like the one Schroeder had on Peanuts. And just revealing that she did do it on a little cheap Casio keyboard. Like this song that has been resonant for a quarter of a century now has been, you know, it's what they were dancing to in the in the service station.
Yes,
when the presidency changed hands. Like it's
I love that it was that,
song.
and then Since You've Been Gone.
Yeah.
That were the two that I saw. And the part where in the middle of Since You've Been Gone, where it's like you had your chance, you blew it. They're like screaming it, even more than Casey. Now, what I found interesting, and again, it's about the meaning of Mariah Carey, but she, early in this chapter, it sort of said that she moved with her mum into another area.
Yeah.
It's not really mentioned where the dad is and the siblings are, so I did get a little lost in the timeline of, okay, so when did we go from, like, where was Alison in the last chapter?
Well,
where's everyone in this chapter?
She did explain in the intention that she would be, or was that
Jumping all over.
in the preface, that she was going to be back and forth and up and down and all over the place. But yeah, like that's a weird thing about listening to it. Like when you read something, you kind of don't get timelines and things, but listening to it, it's really clear. It's like, oh, this is obviously post. They live with their dad now, and they're only together at Christmas, and it's never okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So she starts talking about trying to make Christmas good.
Yeah.
She said, I was a child craving a childhood in a house filled with disappointment and pain. Oof.
Yeah.
But basically that the family didn't communicate for most of the year. They'd come together at Christmas, but because they hadn't communicated, they'd be there sitting with, you know, stuffed with feelings and resentment and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, and the golden child thing, like she was
and the golden child, yeah, and they weren't able to communicate actually how they were feeling, which honestly, that sounds exactly like Christmas to me.
That's every Christmas with every family. Yeah. Although this is the moment where I started to get a little bit teary and realised, this is where that song comes from, and this is why it's so joyous. Christmas with the Gunkles.
Yes.
Her gay uncles, Bert and Myron. Her description of is it Bert with the hair, like the trimmed beard and the full Farrah Fawcett,
and the outfit,
the layers.
I loved her description of their so wild raspberries grew in their backyard and they had a golden Labrador named Sparkle. I was wondering, is this reality or is this the world Mariah made up?
And also, you kind of wonder that because it's like they're indulging all of her showgirl fantasies.
Yeah. So
and you're like,
are they real?
Oh, this is why she's so camp.
Yeah. Well, because
she was raised in gay Christmas.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Gunkles supporting Mariah's extraness. Of course, this is our fault. Like, gays are responsible for Mariah.
And
it
why
makes
we
so
love
much
her so
sense.
much.
It's like full circle, and now she's responsible for us. It's all happening. But I did want to go back a smidge because, as you mentioned, the resentment towards Mariah. I love that Mariah could understand the resentment. She was like, I can kind of put myself, but do not ruin Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, if there is one thing I will not put up with, it's ruining Christmas. And that's when she sort of started to live in her own little fantasy world.
Yeah.
But I love that she's said, I had a friend, let's call her Ashley, whose mother was gay. Ashley had no idea. I love, though, that it's like, but everyone else knew. I knew because I'm Mariah. Everyone, we all talked about it.
It's like,
but Ashley had no idea.
When Cher brings that woman home in Silkwood. You're like, oh.
That's a different kind of Silkwood shower. But I also love that, you know, she talks about getting lost in the little fantasy world with the Gunkles and the performing and all of that sort of stuff. And then just quickly shoehorns in that, like, just a quick reminder that I wrote the smash hit, All I Want for Christmas Is You. And I was very young and I wrote a whole Christmas
22.
album. I was young and Tommy allowed me to, and I was really young. And I wrote the smash hit, and it was a great hit. Christmas smash.
It was a weird thing though
festive.
at the time. Like, you know, I was the same age. I had just as many anniversaries as Mariah at that point. But yeah, it was not like, you know, Elvis had a Christmas album, or Dolly and Kenny had a Christmas album. Like, you know, there were like Barbara Streisand had a Christmas album. I don't understand because she's Jewish.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Yeah. Sung with the gusto of someone who has no concept of Christmas because they're Jewish. But yeah, it was a weird thing for someone to do a Christmas album. And like, for me, this is my weird intersection with Mariah and Christmas and craziness. My favorite author also is obsessed with Christmas and writes Christmas short stories every year.
Oh,
and then she's got like this massive collection of Christmas short stories that you can get. One of them was turned into one of those made-for-TV movies with Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh my God. Who's the writer?
Connie Willis is her name. She's a science fiction writer. But yeah, she writes essentially rom-coms set in like, she's got a series of books. Well, they're not really a series. They're just sort of vaguely related, that are set at Oxford in the history department, and time travel is a thing. So if you're studying history, you have to go back and look at it. You have to do pracs.
Is there? I feel like there's a TV show that's that.
Maybe.
Like a kid's...
Or like
What
Horrible
was it?
Histories or something.
Something like that. Or even Around the Twist or something.
But
like
yeah,
shows.
these are just like I've read one of them I've read 3 times, another I've read twice, and I only just finished reading the third one for the second time. It's 1,100 pages. It's 2 books.
Yeah.
Because it was too much for one big book. But yeah, and they're amazing. Like, one's set during the medieval period, another one's set during Victorian Britain, and this latest one was set during. Well, I say latest one; it's 10 years old now. Was set during the Blitz in.
Maybe it's
in World War
Blackadder.
II.
It's Blackadder.
But yeah,
Is Mr. Bean there?
she writes these great Christmas stories. Like some of them are fun and silly, some of them are a little bit depressing and full on. But yeah, she writes amazing Christmas stories. There's a whole book of Connie Willis Christmas stories. So I could seriously have Mariah Carey on repeat and be reading Connie Willis from the 1st of November until
yes, as soon as Mariah arrives. So I feel like, sorry, I wanted to backtrack. So you were talking about the emotions of the thing. Did we touch on that, or have I missed it?
Yeah, no, it was just the gunkles. It was just
Yes.
feeling, oh yeah, gays are really good at Christmas. Like, we got crackers. Although I do worry, like, her saying, oh, it always has to be amazing. Sometimes, and I have been guilty of this myself, sometimes the effort to make Christmas amazing can be more stressful on everyone else.
Yeah.
Than it ever ends up being. Because it's like, no, this is going to be amazing.
Shut up and do what I tell you.
Just eat it. I'm making 14 salads. One of them is just bread.
That's my favourite salad.
I'm really good at that one.
Carb salad. And I think that's the whole thing. So for me, I didn't have any gunkles. I am the gunkle now.
You are the gunkle.
And I think that's why people, things like Mariah's Christmas album and Kelly Clarkson's and Kylie's and all, that's actually what started making Christmas traditions for me, in that that makes me now feel like Christmas. Like I'll put that on while I'm wrapping my presents and all of that, because, the joy didn't always exist. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of had to make it for myself, and people like Mariah, when she was so young, putting out this album, helped create some of that. So,
I do love that she talks about that being the intention. It's like, I want to make a Christmas album that makes people think Christmas is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's a classic. It's like,
and I'm
Jesus.
still not over. I never get sick of All I Want for Christmas Is You. Never. It's just perfect.
Yeah. And the fact that she sings the ding, ding, dings.
Yes. And this is why I'm still in a feud with Alison P. Davis. How can you not love this song?
I think people who don't love it are people who... My sister did send me the other day. She occasionally sends me things from Instagram. It was, felt cute, might change later.
Yeah.
Like, might delete later thing. So it's a picture of Mariah. It's a selfie. And the little caption, supposedly written by Mariah, is, felt cute, might spend the next 2 months driving you crazy with that one song.
Yes. I have seen that one. But then people like you and I are like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
I don't understand.
Like, I get excited when I hear it in the shops.
Oh, my God.
Like, it's one of the only redeeming features of Love Actually is that song.
And, of course, The Trouble with Love is.
Well, yes, we love a bit of Kelly.
But I think that's it for breaking it on down. Was there anything else you want to touch on in the chapters?
No, I just, I'm really terrified for the next one. So I kind of, we had 2 very full-on family violence chapters to get, we had kind of undercurrents of dissatisfaction in this Christmas one, but it's, she's put so much tinsel and glitter on it. It's like, no. We're having Christmas. The Christmas chapter is going to be fun. I'm putting the gay uncles in.
Yeah, that's it. All gunkles all the time.
24/7 gunkles.
Mariah made it. Now this does bring us to Mariah meatiness.
Meatiness.
Before we go and put our scores in, I wanted to give a little update, because I did put our scores out there last week and put it up on the Twitters. So if anyone's not following, it's at me I am a memoir. And I got the Lamley to do a little vote for each chapter to give us a score of what they thought the meatiness was. Now,
were they all infinity?
Well, it's a little I was a little surprised.
Oh!
So because I can't give them 10 options, it's 1 to 4, 4 to 8, 9 to 10, or infinity.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be exact. It's not an exact science. No. It's math. Mariah's not all across it, so it's fine.
No, neither are you.
No. So for an intention, I gave that 7 out of 10 and Fab gave that 8 out of 10 of Mariah Meatiness. The Lamley with 42% gave that one infinity.
Excellent.
So they were all about an intention. They're like, it's juicy. I just want to dig into it.
It tells you everything that's going to happen in the book.
Everything. Whereas, yes, so the other numbers were a little lower, but Existence, I gave that an 8 out of 10. You gave that a 7 out of 10. So we had a little swap. The Lamley, now this came in as a tie.
Oh.
So 33% gave it a score of 1 to 4.
Oh.
So quite low. Whereas another 33% gave it infinity. So everyone else fell into the middle section, but it was either we love it or we hate it.
You know what? I think because that's the one where she, there's suicidal ideation at the start of it, and it's confronting to think of the person that you love more than anyone in the world, because the Lamely, Mariah is the pinnacle, having doubts and feeling unworthy of themselves. That's a confronting thing. I can understand wanting to mark that down.
Isn't that funny? Because I think of it as, well, that's meaty. Like, that's
yes.
Yeah. Ooh. And then Close My Eyes. This only wrapped up a couple of hours ago, but I gave that a 9. You gave that a 9. The Lamley gave that 4 to 8 points. So somewhere in the middle. And there was 28% to both 9 and 10 and infinity. But yeah, that was somewhere in the middle. I was surprised by that one.
Well, maybe what they're looking for when they think of Mariah Meatiness is singing of the songs.
True. It could be that. Or they're like, we want it just to be about Mariah. Who are these other people?
Morgan.
Now, yeah. And the other one that never gets mentioned. Now, this week, There Can Be Miracles. What Mariah Meatiness score are you going to give that this week?
Well, just on, the way it kind of has shaped her, the fact that she thinks of herself as a miracle despite the horrific things she's witnessing and experiencing. I think I'm going to give it an 8 because it's a fairly heavy chapter. And it's a lot about Morgan. Poor Patricia. So yeah, I'm going to go with an 8 because we find out that Mariah believes herself to be a miracle.
Yeah.
And to me,
I actually gave it an 8 as well.
Yeah.
Because I thought it is quite meaty. And that moment, obviously, with Morgan and Patricia is quite full on.
Yes.
But because we just had a similar chapter detailing Morgan's violence streak, it felt a little bit like a retread just so she could tell us that she's a miracle.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like the first chapter is like leading us up. It's like, oh yeah, men being violent towards each other is very normal. A man being violent to a woman, even though like,
and his own mother as well.
His own mother, like it is really confronting, and it is very. It just feels like it's a step even further. I feel like if this had been our first experience of the family violence, I would have been like, whoa, this book is full on. But I feel like the last one, as awful as it was, the courtesy fingers for this one.
I hope people know what that means.
Paving the way.
And how about When Christmas Comes? How meaty did you find this chapter?
Well, because it created one of the greatest songs of all time, and there are gunkles, I'm giving this #1 to infinity.
Wow.
It's my first infinity chapter. It seriously, and possibly because of the way she read it, it just went to the heart of me.
Okay.
Just, the why Christmas means so much, why she tried to make that song so iconic. Like she's just like pouring all of her desires for anyone in the world who's having a terrible Christmas to be able to hear it and go, no, Christmas can be fun. Like, this is a fun bit of Christmas.
It will be fun.
You will have a good time.
That's funny. I wasn't expecting such a high thing because, of course, I didn't hear the audiobook. So perhaps it will change my opinion. But
you weren't deciding between oranges and a block of chocolate. So.
No, exactly. So my score was a little more around the middle. So I gave this one a 6 out of 10.
A 6?
Because I found it fun. I did find it fun, but coming after the previous chapter, it was fun, but not as meaty, if that makes sense. But again,
I loved because
I didn't hear the emotion.
But it's because it had so much to do with the meaning of Mariah Carey.
Yeah, that's
with the meaning of why
and
she
look, maybe
created
I will change my mind.
Christmasness, and just
why she created Christmas.
She created Christmas. Just the image of Schroeder banging away on his toy piano, that even brings up a lot of Christmas for me. Like, you know, those Charlie Brown cartoons were huge at Christmas. And I think that's again Mariah and I being of the same vintage.
Yes.
Going, oh yeah, I saw that every year too. Like that was
bringing back them dem feels.
Dem feels. Thank you, Mariah.
Now, of course, I will put these 2 chapters up on the Twitters. I can't figure out how to do it on Facebook. I think you can only do it on Messenger, and I don't want to annoy all of the Lamley, but feel free to follow along on Twitter at Me I Am a Memoir to partake in this, and of course send us love and feedback and hate and all of the things. Now I think it's time for the remix. The remix. The remix. If you were Mariah, Fab, what would you have done differently in one or both of these chapters?
Oh, look, it's the thing I probably would have done differently. Once finding out I was a miracle.
Yes, of course.
I probably would have emancipated myself from my entire family and insist that I be just permanently adopted by Gunkles.
That was my remix. I have 2, but that was my main one. I wrote, fuck the family off and move in with Gunkles.
24/7 with Farrah Fawcett flicking a beard. I love it. Layers.
That's amazing. So yes, that was my remix. And the other thing was, of course, little Mariah, when everyone was fighting, just whip out that whistle register. Just make the point. We're not arguing anymore, because I know she does that now with them babies. So maybe she didn't have the whistle register yet, don't know. But if I was little Mariah during those fights, I just would have gone full squeal. And but yes, definitely moving in with the Gunkles. That's hands down.
Yeah, I don't think we're alone in wanting that to be our remix. Can't take that away. Oh, Mariah's lesson.
And now we've got Can Take That Away, Mariah's lesson.
Oh, Mariah's lesson.
What have we learned from Mariah this week?
Well, you should go first, because I don't want to steal yours again.
For me, I learned that no matter how bad things get, no matter how unloved I may feel, I can always write a Christmas album.
You can.
That's it.
I mean,
that's the lesson.
You won't be the first to do it, unfortunately.
I'm sad today. Christmas album!
It is, weirdly, my fiance, who his birthday is Christmas Eve, and the first time we met, I was like, oh my God, it must be so... Oh, you're Chinese. You probably have no concept of Christmas Eve at all. And he's like, you're the first person who's ever gotten to that realization before I've had to explain.
Yeah.
That it was like growing up, it wasn't a problem. The 24th of December as a birthday.
Yeah.
Because he grew up in Beijing and it's like, yeah, whatever, no Christmas. But he has weirdly taken to humming Christmas carols all year round. And it's like, no, I know you didn't have Christmas growing up, but you just don't do it.
Yes.
It's like
Mariah does not allow.
It's like Umbrellas Inside. It's just not done. Like that's one of the things that I always found confronting about the album Merry Christmas, is that it wasn't recorded the previous Christmas. It would have been recorded in like June or July that year.
Yeah.
Like I was like, how is she singing Christmas carols in the wrong time of year? Like, does it feel weird to go into?
She had to make an
studio?
exception. Well, I know that when Kylie did her Christmas album, they set it up as Christmas in the studio.
Oh my God, she's hilarious.
Yeah, there was a sleigh Like, and trees and presents. It's delightful. You have to watch it. There's like behind the scenes footage. They had like Christmas t-shirts on.
Oh, so cute.
They went for it.
But yeah, I hope we get a chapter about the recording of the album, or do you think this is as much as we're going to get?
Oh, we may. I think as we go along, obviously once she's into her career, she'll probably have more references to specific albums and songs. And then, of course, we can react to them in some little spontaneous Mariah bonus episodes.
It's always been one thing at the back of my mind whenever I listen to that album is her recording it in July. Or February, whenever it was.
So we got onto the Christmas stuff, but did you give us your lesson?
My lesson, look, I think my lesson is, and you know, I did talk about it earlier, it's like the things that you learn as a little kid, like hang on to those lessons. Like they can really bring you through. Like her deciding, I'm going to be a miracle. I'm going to do what these people do not expect of me, and that is to not only survive but thrive. And that is, I think, something we all should be able to do. Even at this age, you should be able to go, I've been paid a compliment for this work I've done, for that thing I did, for this gift I gave someone. I'm not going to brush it away and go, oh, no, it's nothing. I'm just going to go, yeah, I did an amazing thing. Like, I'm going to own it. I'm going to wear it, and I'm going to be proud of who I am. And going forward, you know, step up and be better than my doubts.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And then that's how you become Mariah Carey.
That's how you become Mariah Carey. I technically have her hair, if you look at this hair.
I know, I have been noticing when you're in Fab's background, he's got Mariah's hair. And I need it to intermingle with mine.
Like the book cover.
Now this week, did we feel like there were any I don't know hers?
Morgan.
I was going to say Morgan Carey. I still don't know her.
I still don't know her.
What I thought, because it seems like we're not ever going to know Morgan.
Yeah.
For some reason, when I wrote my notes, and then I finished writing my notes this morning, and I jumped in the shower, and I was thinking about getting ready for this. And for some reason, I decided that from now on, when Morgan is mentioned, I'm going to imagine that it's Morgan Fairchild.
No.
Because that's just more festive.
Okay.
You know? I feel like that's what Mariah would do in her head. She's like, the only Morgan I know is television star Morgan Fairchild.
I had a crush on a guy called Morgan when I was at school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I told him it was a mistake.
Wouldn't it have to see if you replace him in that story with Morgan Fairchild, it's all better.
I know. Amazing.
And I think that brings us to Almost Home. At the end of the podcast. Podcast, baby. Almost there. Almost home, you could probably say. But you won't because of copyright. That's a no. That's the next two chapters covered. And next Mariah Monday, we will be covering the chapter The Father and the Son. Now, this gets a little bit confusing because in the interview with Nessa Amorosi, Mariah referred to the chapter as The Father and the Sunset. But my book says The Father and the Son. So I'm a little like, ooh, where's this going to go? What's it going to be? And Mariah also mentioned that there may be a song coming out related to this chapter. Yes.
Ouch,
she's talked about collaborating with a male singer of some kind. In my head, it's Trey. I've just gone, that's where I've gone straight to. So this is a bit more of a longer chapter, so we will only be covering the one.
Yes, it's a very long chapter. And it looks like it's going to be very full on.
Yeah, just the mention of father.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, okay.
Also, you know, I do love Mariah's cod attempts at history. Like, well, Harlem was this and that and the other thing. And where we lived was all this, but it wasn't gentrified yet. It's like, mate, where are we going? Like, Mariah, history lesson. I'm looking forward to a bit more of that as we go forward.
Yes.
The history of race relations in America as seen through the eyes of Mariah Carey and her father. And
I just want to...
Morgan.
I wonder if she'll say, and my father.
Oh, maybe.
Just sigh after sigh after sigh. But I think that brings us to the end of this week's chapters.
Oh, so yes, I hope you enjoyed chapter 2 of Me, I Am a Memoir, the meaning of Mariah Carey with Posh and Fab, the elusive Sham 2. We will be back next Mariah Monday with this all new chapter. Keep up with us on the socials at Me I Am a Memoir on Twitter and Instagram and the Facebook. And also you can email us if you like, meiamamemoir@gmail.com, which is, they've all got .com. I don't know why. I could just say at Gmail, really.
.org. .edu, because we're educational.
We're very educational. So, yes, we would love you to keep up and read along. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Leave us a review wherever you're getting your podcasts from, whichever podcast hole you've dug us out of.
Yes, if people could leave reviews on the iTunes, that would be lovely, because I think the more reviews, the more people get to see and hear our dulcet tones.
Yes, even if you hate it.
Yeah. Please don't though. Only 5 stars. Only 5 stars.
I'm happy for 1. Just the attention, I love. So we will see you next week with our big meaty chapter, and it's gonna be full on. So
big piece of meat.
Here's a 7-day trigger warning for you.
We'll count it down.
All right, darling. Big air kisses. Mwah, mwah. Bye,
Bye,
Emily.
Emily.